I hope the director's listening. This is how you still have a chance. You can fix your movie. Hire Jacob as a pig consultant.
A pig consultant. Speaking of adorable pigs, the pig in Gunda is nowhere near as adorable as the pig in Pig.
Pig.
Chandler, please introduce
Yes.
Pig.
Pig is a 2021 movie directed by newcomer Michael Sarnoski. It stars Nickolas Cage, who plays a truffle hunter whose precious pig is stolen, and he tries to get him back. And it's great. I really liked Pig. It's kind of one of those movies that was I feel like most people, when they saw the first trailer, they thought it was kind of a meme because Nickolas Cage, that's just the audience he attracts. But even from the trailer, I could tell it was a little more than that, because he's been in some Steven Seagal level garbage. But the difference between Nickolas Cage and other actors like Steven Seagal and Bruce Willis and John Cusack, Nickolas Cage gives a shit. And I think his performance in Pig is one of his best.
Even when he's in a bad film, and he knows it, he's still invested to some degree. Never just phones it in. And even when he's invested, you might accuse him of going too far, but at least that's something.
That's something. That is indeed something.
It is indeed something. I fucking love Pig. This is a great movie. And partially, I feel like this might have been colored by the fact I went and saw it at the Loft, and this is the first time I've been in a movie theater in 16 months. And it was so nice being back. I forgot how much I missed it. I'm so excited to be able to go to further screenings this month at the Loft.
And they got some bangers this month.
They do. Yeah, they're showing Fellini in August, and despite the fact that I have and own all of them, I'm going to spend more money and watch them in the theater.
But it's the big screen. Yeah.
Yeah, I get to finally watch 8.5 on the big screen, which I'm so excited for. I fully expect to move it back to number 1 on my favorite movies list after watching it, at least for a time.
R.I.P. Bergman.
Pig is great.
Look, you're foreshadowing it. Look in the background. The Fellini box set is overtaking the Bergman box set.
Well, yes, I just didn't want to move the Bergman box set. And anyway, so Pig is this was also an interesting theatrical experience, and I think the best possible way of like reintroducing myself to film in theaters. In that I essentially knew nothing about the movie going in.
Okay.
I knew it had Nickolas Cage. I knew there was a pig, and it was a truffle pig. I knew the vague idea, like someone takes the pig and he has to go find it. But I never saw a trailer. That's it. Like I through osmosis, I figured that stuff out. And it was just a lovely, wonderful time. There's almost something. It's kind of like, it's a sad film, but it's also kind of cozy. And it's cozy for me in the way that it takes place in
Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. In Oregon, Portland. And I just, spiritually, physically, emotionally, I just love the Pacific Northwest. And it is my spiritual home in America. And maybe move there one day. I don't know. But I just love that aesthetic of just there's like this feeling of like constant twilight in the film that very much kind of exists in when I'm visiting there, of like it's never noon, like there's never like bright sunlight. It's always like dim and there's fog and there's stuff. It's just lots of atmosphere. It's a great place just to film because lots of atmosphere. But they're just like in the beginning when it's him in the cabin in the woods. And it's almost underlit to the point where like you can't see what's happening, but it's beautiful. Like there's a tactile nature to the film where like you start out in nature, and then later on in the film there's great scenes with food, and there's a great like it treats the food with respect, and you get that tactile feeling of looking at food, of like you can almost taste it through the screen.
See, that's the one thing I didn't know about Pig, was that I didn't realize that Nicolas Cage's character was a chef. I didn't realize how much food was going to be in this movie. There was a good amount of food in this movie.
Great surprise. And so I feel like the film had a lot going for it, like going in. despite not knowing it. Like, it was my first time back in a theater. It takes place in Portland. I love the atmosphere, the weather, everything.
The pig is cute.
Excellently shot. Pig is adorable. I have no complaints, really. Well, I do have one, but.
Oh, yeah. Well, do I have a few?
Actually, I have two.
Okay.
And the first, the one of most importance, the only real complaint I think anyone could ever have with this film is that in the very beginning, it says Nickolas Cage, Alex Wolff, and then it doesn't credit the fucking pig. Where's my pig credit?
The pig's name was Brandy.
Brandy the pig.
Brandy the pig.
Poor Brandy. She deserved a A-list credit next to those two.
Because the pig does not have a lot of screen time, and allegedly, I've read some behind the scenes stuff that the pig was not necessarily trained, so the pig ended up biting Nickolas Cage quite a few times.
Oh, that's great. I love Brandy even more now.
No, it was a very cute pig, and you get just enough of the pig to understand why losing said pig would be so devastating. I guess my only complaint about the movie is that I'm on the fence about the cinematography. It was very dark. I don't know if it was just my theater, but specifically towards the beginning, I could barely tell what was happening. And towards the end as well, there's a certain like camera style that comes with low budget filmmaking where it's just pick up the camera and just look at what's interesting. It's not necessarily my thing, but towards the end, there's some really, really just beautifully lit scenes, specifically in Alex Wolff's father's house, which just looks wonderful.
Buy yourself a new pig.
But overall, I don't know. Maybe it just felt a little murky to me. Maybe that's an aesthetic choice.
It was murky, but I think, especially in the beginning, that set the mood and the tone. Like, it felt like you were there, like you were straining to see things because it was so early in the morning. There's not any lights. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It felt rustic and kind of desolate in a way that I think worked. Although it did take like a minute to get used to. Like I in the theater, I could hear myself say, I'm kind of struggling to see. And then that thought went away and I just kind of existed within the mood of the film from then on. Yeah. So my only real my only real criticism,
non-pig related complaint,
non-pig crediting complaint, is that the sometimes with Alex Wolff and then with the chef, it's a great scene with where Nickolas Cage confronts a chef.
The critics aren't real. The customers aren't real. Because this isn't real.
So that chef, the actor who plays the chef, there are some times where I think the performance doesn't click for me.
Nick Cage?
No, Nick Cage was fine. Alex Wolff and the other chef.
Okay.
Sometimes like the performance, Alex Wolff in general, I've never been too keen on as an actor. And he grew on me over the course of the film, which is good. I don't have, I'd be curious on a rewatch, like if I was bothered by him from the beginning because of his performance or just because it was him. And so I took a little bit.
He's kind of an asshole.
But that the other chef, and there was little line readings occasionally in the film where I was just like, it's too much. It doesn't strike me as true for the dialogue that is being given. And it reminded me, I mean this in the best way possible, of my own directing, which has some issues in my capstone film Dreamcatchers, which as I look back, it's like, this is a little too much. You need to tone it down. And I think there was room for some more subtlety with some of those performances that just...
Well, see, that's interesting because I felt that, in particular, that scene with that chef, I thought he was perfect. Especially when Nickolas Cage is just sort of shitting on him and his weird, uncomfortable smile.
It was a good performance. I'm not like it. It's hard to really express. Like, I don't think it was the wrong performance. I just think it's hard to put my finger on, but it just, as I was watching, it didn't strike home as much as I think the dialogue should have lent itself to. And ultimately, the scenes, the way they were shot, the way they were written, and the way that like the actors were clearly giving good performance. It's just sometimes a little too much for me. I can look past that. Like, it never really affected my viewing. I just think that occasionally throughout the film, some of the performances just didn't ring 100% true. And that's it.
What I really like about this movie in general is that it's sort of, I thought it was going to be a lot more insular in its themes. I thought it was going to be about grief and nothing else, but really it's sort of, it examines like ripple effects of death and grief, not only in the sort of like mental shutdown that Nickolas Cage is going through, but also he's been given this crazy perspective that helps out the chef, because he basically like breaks down his life. He's essentially doing the chef a favor. It's hard to hear, but I think the chef in general, like, maybe this is deep down, he knew this is what his life was turning into. And Nickolas Cage sort of has that foresight that's sort of kickstarted by grief. Alex Wolff also has like this crazy good arc, I think, because he is pretty annoying, insufferable in the first like act of this movie. But I do feel by the time he gets to that last scene where he's just in the car, this adventure has really like sort of put things into perspective. Nickolas Cage, he, again, as a character, he doesn't change at all. He's been broken from the start. He's broken at the end. Maybe a little bit of hope at the end.
Well, he does change in the sense that he warms up to Alex Wolff's character, which is a change.
Yes, that is a change. But that's like kind of the whole point. And I just loved how subtle a lot of this was. You don't even get the full story technically, but you got enough. Like even that first scene where he's just listening to that recording of what we can assume is his wife. Like that immediately, just, I don't need any context. That shit's just sad. It's sad.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and this is going to be a spoiler by like hinting at something.
Yes.
But I was constantly worried, it being a Nickolas Cage film, not having seen the trailer, that like the opening scenes, really great. Really kind of quiet tone setting scenes, but I was always worried that it was going to kind of devolve into the Nickolas Cage is shouting and is going to punch people to get his pig back. And you know, like what you would expect from a Nickolas Cage film.
Exactly.
And it wasn't until
there's one moment.
Fuck it. Spoiler alert. The climax of the film, it wasn't until I couldn't let my guard down fully. And it didn't really affect my viewing, but it was like there was constantly, I was worried that the film was going to misstep somewhere because it was Nickolas Cage. And it wasn't until I realized that the climax of the film is Nickolas Cage makes the antagonist
fucking ratatouille
dinner. And like when I realized, I was like, oh my God, this film is consistent in what it's trying to do and say, and it's not being manipulative. It's not like leaning into the fact that Nickolas Cage is the main actor. The climax of the film is he makes dinner, and it's especially so emotionally impactful. When he
gives Alex Wolff the list, I think everyone in the audience is like, "Oh my God, guns, something to break into the house." It's literally a grocery list.
Yeah. Well, like, you're also not sure what it could be.
Yeah.
I thought it could be that, but I also there's no hint. Like there is a hint, like it's set up, and it's another great example of how well written the film is, in that you
subtly
get the scene where Alex Wolff talks about his dad and mom having dinner. And then you think, okay, that's an interesting little character piece informing us about his father. That's not going to come up again. It's already served its purpose. But no, comes back for the finale, and it's great. It's so wonderful to see a film that the protagonist is trying to get something and doesn't use violence or coercion or anything like that to get what he wants.
And the only violent part in the movie isn't even really violent. He gets hit, but he doesn't do the hitting.
Yeah.
And that scene, like, tonally feels a little ridiculous to me, but it's so brief and it's relatively tame that it doesn't bother me. Another one, God, one of those more difficult scenes was when, again, completely separate from the rest of the movie, Alex Wolff goes to visit his mother, who a few scenes ago he had said was dead. And this is another thing where this is obviously grief, but it's not necessarily grief because she is still technically alive, but it's one of those things where I think that's a huge part of what happens in the end. He kind of like maybe is helped to come to terms with what is happening exactly with his mother, her case, and his role in his father's life or whatever. But that was just another little detail where I'm like, so many little things so subtly set up, subtly paid off, that you really don't understand how well written a movie it is until like a few days later.
I'm looking for a truffle pig. Someone stole her.
I don't understand. Tell me who you are.
Yeah, and the other thing, like pacing wise, I'm always, my favorite criticism, of course, is the second act slump, which this film didn't have. And I knew the film was going to get pacing right, because I got a little worried at the beginning when they get the truffle pig is stolen, and it takes its time to follow Nick Cage getting out of. Starts the car doesn't work, goes to the cafe, goes to whatever. Takes its time. And then I realized, like, is it going to drag? Like, where is this going? Like, it seemed like it was trying to get kickstarted. And then it's like, again, spoilers, they find immediately the people who got the pig. Just like that. So it's not about that. That's taken care of immediately. And then there's like a cut that they were at the other truffle hunters camp, and they informed this woman they stole my pig, and she's like, those fuckers.
She knew. She knew immediately.
Cut. It was an immediate cut. Music, and they're driving immediately to the people who stole the pig, and like, I was like, great. This film has a sense of momentum. It's not going to waste my time with just the nitty gritty of finding it's not a mystery about who did it. And I'd also say, like, it's not particularly a surprise. It doesn't come as a surprise when we figure out that Alex Wolff's dad, at least for me, it didn't, was the one that stole the pig. Like,
but the real surprise.
I almost feel like when I was watching it, I felt like, oh, well, Alex Wolff clearly was the one who is responsible. And then it quickly became apparent that he was not responsible, obviously, because he picks up Nickolas Cage. And it's like, well, it's probably someone who knows Alex Wolff. And then from there, it's, easy deduction when you start hearing about his terrible father.
Who, I just want to say, I thought the father gave a great performance, and Nick Cage is great. I don't care what people say. I don't care that people... I have always thought Nick Cage was a great actor. He's given bad performances, but he's a genuinely great actor. And I got to say, I thought it was good the whole time, but I was just like, where is this great performance that I've heard so much about? But then again, spoiler alert, when we find out the titular pig is dead,
R.I.P. Brandy,
which R.I.P. the pig. The guy, again, there's subtlety, because he didn't say the pig is dead. He starts saying, those fucking tweakers, I told them they were being too rough with it. And then you can immediately surmise. But the thing is, like, there isn't one big Oscar moment where Nickolas Cage starts to, like, realize whatever. Like, mid-sentence, he starts to break down. Because maybe in the back of his mind, he already knew that this is what happened to the pig. And that's another one of those many, like, little things that I wasn't expecting the pig to be dead. I don't know. Maybe it's just the way that the dad tried to buy him off. Because I'm sure the dad knew immediately that the pig was dead. But yeah, just that little moment he has, it's just, this is a great Nickolas Cage performance.
I also really appreciated the performance from Nickolas Cage and from Alex Wolff.
Yes.
I think the moment I finally realized that Alex Wolff, his performance worked with me, was when, after the first time Nickolas Cage confronts Alex Wolff's father, and obviously they had a bit of an argument before that, and they go outside and they just kind of have this silent reconciliation before they have a conversation, and they're just like leaning up against the car together. And something about like the performances there just worked for me. I was like, this is a quiet film where like it's getting the character relationships right, and the performances work together. Like performances between Alex Wolff and between Nicolas Cage. Like you can give good performances that don't necessarily work off of each other, but that was the moment I realized that they're playing off each other very well.
Yes.
You live your life for them, and they don't even see you. You don't even see yourself.
Great movie.
Yeah, a good movie. I'm so happy I watched it. Such a good movie for the first time back in theaters. A new movie, everything. It's really recommend Pig. Really do.
Pig's good. Pig's very good.
It's probably it's my second favorite film of the year.
Space Jam.
Yeah, of course. Space Jam is my favorite film of 2021.
I think I have that.
I've already seen it 12 times.
I'm assuming both of ours is Inside is number one still.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out. Con just finished up, and we got some interesting trailers and some announcements of things to come.
Yeah, I'm going to say Pig is also my number two. Either Pig or No Sudden Move. One of those two.